Hello, Internet, and welcome to the Homebrew Studio. My name is Matthew, my pronouns are he, him, and I'll be with you for the next hour or so today as we talk about creating some fun, original content for your tabletop RPGs. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I appreciate it. So, today in the studio, we're going to talk about one of the more freeform elements, I think, when it comes to creating your own world, your own homebrew world, your own homebrew setting for a tabletop RPG, and that is creating deities and pantheons. Now, oh, hi, friends. Welcome to the chat. Malukuth Soldier, hello. Welcome to the Homebrew Studio. Good to have you here today. Now, when it comes to creating deities and pantheons, obviously we have plenty of examples to draw upon from real life, from various different fantasy properties, all of the different uh, pantheons and deities and forms of religion that have been invented by people over our thousands of years of history. So there's a lot to work from, there's a lot to start from, and a lot of material. The real question is, how do we begin to condense that down and filter out and come to something that we really enjoy and want to put forward into our games? So, the big problem to start out with when it comes to building your own pantheon is that there are so many options. Do you want your deities to be abstract or anthropomorphic? Are they just these vague concepts, really, that don't have any sort of physical presence, but people interact with them in a more of ethereal fashion? Or are they in, very concrete, solid, concrete sort of entities with physical presences that you can interact with and observe their form? Are they humanoid? Are they basically human-like in shape, or are they more animalistic? Are they, sort of like animal deities or nature spirits, that sort of thing? Are they conceptual or are they concrete? Are they the creators or are they created? This is one of those fun little dichotomies where you have to sort of establish, is it that these deities created the various peoples and mortal races of the world that you are creating, or did the people create their gods? Which way is it? Maybe it's both ways. And of course, one of the fun things in doing this, if you're creating not just a discrete setting, but an entire world, is that you can have lots of different pantheons that express themselves in different ways. Just like in very much in our world, where different cultures and different belief systems have different ways of presenting their deities and their pantheons, and these often come into conflict with one another. Your fantasy world can have the same thing, where one pantheon might be filled with very humanoid deities, a lot like the Greek or Roman pantheons, and then you have other pantheons where the deities have more animalistic forms and natures about them, or no physical form whatsoever. They just are sort of exist in abstract. There's just sort of these abstract concepts that people worship. So we have lots of different options to go through, lots of different varieties and different ways that we can express and create and craft our deities and pantheons. So we have to find a way and a system of organizing all of this and coming to something we really like. So how do we do this? Well, in my opinion, the good place to start is to first, or well, either one of these, you can do them in either order. I've got them first and second here, but you can do them in either order. These are both collectively sort of the first step. Pick an aesthetic and pick a framework. Oh, that's a neat idea. Malkuth Soldier uh, says he was struggling, or they were struggling to uh, create multiple pantheons and settled on the idea that the pantheons are discrete to the regions where they are primarily worshipped. That's a very good idea. I like that. And that's definitely a way that you can do this. So when it comes to creating a pantheon, I think the best place to start is picking an aesthetic and picking a framework. Picking an aesthetic is going to define the feel of your pantheon and making sure that all of your deities feel like they are cohesive and that they actually fit together in a pantheon, that they would have been part of the same cultural origin. So there's not too much variety where it seems like this is a mishmash of different things all thrown together. And picking a framework is going to help define how many deities exist and what roles each of them fill in that pantheon. So that you don't have either a bunch of overlap or you don't have areas where you're missing a deity where one should be. These are our two first steps in our creation. Yeah, in the land above, there's not a whole lot of exploration of the Pantheon, even though two of you are clerics. You guys just have never expressed that much interest in it. Which, by the way, I'll state at the outfront, so much of the world building that dungeon masters do, in my experience at least, the players like only ever interact with the most surface level of the iceberg, right? Most of it is hidden underneath that the players will maybe never interact with, but it will go on to inform and flavor and help you and inspire you to create so much more throughout the world and give it that organic, real life feel. So it's worth doing even if your players are never going to see everything that's going on in the world building and underneath the surface. Excuse me. So, if we're going to build a pantheon together, you and I, my wonderful little chat room, we need to decide on an aesthetic and a framework. Now, yes, I was going to mention that, Tessa. Yes, when it comes to frameworks, there are different ways that you can go about doing this. The way that the world of Vale, which is a homebrew world created by some of our Nerdsmith creators and directors, the way their system of deities works is they have a massive grid of all of the different cleric domains, uh, and where where two domains intersect on that grid, there's a deity. So most deities have two different domains where they are sort of the combination of those two principles coming together. Some deities are just the singular domain where it sort of meets itself in the grid. Um, but yeah, that's a massive undertaking. If you look up the World of Vale on World Anvil, worldanvil.com, you can see all the work that's gone into creating the various deities of Vale and the various combinations that they represent. That's one way of doing it, certainly. You can also just say that for each domain, that there will be one deity and make it a lot easier for yourself. May not be as flavorful, but a lot easier. And then another thing you can do, which is what DM, my good friend Chris Fairfield, you can follow at Chris Fairfield, what he did for his homebrew world when he was first starting out was he basically took the 9 Dungeons and Dragons alignments, lawful, neutral, chaotic, good, neutral, evil, and assigned each of them a deity. So that was the framework that he used. Oh, thank you, Tessa, for dropping that link in. Yes, it's an excellent link for looking at a really great example of building deities in a pantheon in for a tabletop RPG. I definitely recommend checking out the Gods of Vale. But those are just some examples. You can do it otherwise, in different ways. You can go elemental with it. You can say that these are the primary elements that make up my fantasy world, be they sort of based on different types of mysticism, water, air, metal, wood, fire, earth, water, fire, wind, heart. And whatever you view the sort of the primal forces of your world being, and those esoteric magical energies that define the world, and build your framework of gods around those. That's another possibility. So for what we're going to do today, I think I had an idea in mind for an aesthetic. I want to put that out there, and then we can start building off of that. But this idea I had for the aesthetic of this pantheon would be that each deity in the pantheon has two sides. So, and those sides would sort of function as opposites or antitheses of one another. So, like, you'd have a deity of civilization and war. A deity of life and death. Something like that, or maybe like nature and order, nature and tempest, something like that. But basically, the idea that these deities have two conflicting sides to their essential natures, and that is sort of the basis of how their worshippers in the world interacts with them and how they interact with the world. As depending on which side of their personality is more prominent, they can either be very good or very bad. So that does leave a lot of room open, though, in terms of how we want to present these deities, though. And you can go ahead and start giving me some suggestions in chat, give me some ideas in terms of how do we want to present them. Are they going to be anthropomorphic or animalistic, humanoid, maybe strange and unusual? I do kind of like the idea of non-humanoid deities that have physical forms, but they're very sort of alien and strange to our understanding, almost Cthulhian in a sense, where they are these great, powerful, ancient things that we can't even really understand them. But and it's also kind of the thing from Kevin Smith's movie Dogma, where God can talk directly at you. They'll explode your head, but they can do it because mortals aren't really meant to interface directly with the divine. That's why they have angels and stuff. But I do also kind of like that idea of there being these completely alien and monstrous deities, which are not necessarily maleficent. Maleficent? I know that's the name. I'm not sure if that's a word as well. But not necessarily hostile towards the mortal kind. Ooh, that's a good suggestion. A Malika soldier. Maybe one side is abstract while the other side is humanoid. Something like that. Malevolent. Thank you, Tessa. Malevolent was the word I was going for. But I do like that. That there's the abstract concept and the more humanoid concept. Okay. So, in terms of creating our sort of umbrella aesthetic for our pantheon, we're going to say that these are dual nature deities. Oh, Tub Stout. Welcome to the studio. I haven't read through Pathfinder 2nd Edition yet. That's neat. I'll have to check that out sometime. So we're going to have dual-natured deities that combine antithetical traits that present themselves as either humanoid or abstract, depending on which attribute is more prominent. So, then the question becomes, what kind of framework are we going to use to start building our deities around? Do we just want to go very simple and use something like the different domains, so assign each deity these sort of domains? Do we want to go by alignment? I don't know that alignment would necessarily work for this. Also, alignment can be problematic when it comes to tying deities to that specifically. It can get a little hairy in terms of being very limiting for players who may want to worship a certain aspect of a deity, but not necessarily want to have the alignment that's tied to the deity. So, but Tub Stout says it's a crunchier system, more character customization. Got rid of some of the things that drag the game down. Good, sounds really good. I think that I think Wizards did a similar thing with 5e, but it's good to hear that Pathfinder did something similar. Malakuth Soldier says, and I think whichever side presents as more humanoid might suggest what the culture identifies with better. Okay, so I think I get your meaning there. Basically, the humanoid persona of the deity is the one that the culture finds more benevolent, or you know, wants to promote. You know, you want to be this thing that looks like us, not this thing that looks like a spaghetti monster. I can get behind that, sure. Not to besmirch the flying spaghetti monster, ramen, but in terms of framework, I think just for the sake of ease, going with something like a domain-based system would probably be easier. We might fudge it a little bit, just because we want this to be able to... It would be good to work with something beyond just D&D 5e as a system, but also just because the domains that exist in D&D 5e don't necessarily match up well in terms of being antithetical opposites that we can smash together. And all the non-humanoid aspects to be different pastas. I mean, that kind of puts a collar on different types of pasta, and I would never want to do that. I would never wish to demonize a manicotti. I would never shun a cannoli. I would never turn out a tortellini. So, for our framework, we're going to go all carbs are created equal. Yes. Okay, I see what you're getting at there, Malkuth Soldier. So our framework, I think we're going to make this just domain-based, just for ease. But we're not going to limit ourselves specifically just to Dungeons and Dragons domains. We'll be a little loose with this. So, let's start creating some deities. So let's start talking about the kind of domains we want to be represented within our Pantheon. So I think looking at kind of an idea of the different domains that deities have been presented with in history and religion, as well as fantasy realms, what are some of the main archetypal domains for deities to cover that would be important in a fantasy type setting? Yeah, alignment, I'm not entirely against Tub Stout. I think it is great as a descriptive quality of the game. I don't like it as a prescriptive quality of the game. In other words, I don't like the idea that if a character is of a particular alignment, they have to act in that way. I think the way that they act should determine what their alignment is, and then it can become a good tool for reinforcing certain behaviors and certain ways, certain worldviews in the role play. So I'm not totally against alignment. It does have its problematic sides that need. Yeah, it's tricky. It's tricky. I don't have a solution, and I'm not going to pretend that I do. So, so, some very good suggestions there, Tessa. Life, death, magic, war, nature, light. All very, very good suggestions. Well, I think, of course, the obvious first dichotomy is life, death. Um, what else could we do? War and should we war and civilization? I don't know that war and civilization are necessarily opposites. Maybe more like war and order. Nature and civilization, I think, work better as opposites. Though maybe that's not maybe that's not really true either. Maybe instead of nature and civilization, it should be more along the lines of almost thinking more like corruption or disease. Industry. Might come back to that one. Light. Darkness. Ooh. Okay, I like that. I like that word choice there, Tessa. Ruin. Nature and ruin. Because I feel like it's not so much about nature and civilization. That's more of a dichotomy, I think, conceptually of freedom versus structure. Whereas I like the idea more of it being nature being a very creative force versus ruin being a more destructive force, and that's the clash, is creation versus destruction. Exactly, nature is growth, and then it's exactly, yes. Let's see, what are some other domains we have? Magic. We have um light. Light, I already got light. Tempest, which kind of falls under nature. Hello, Rhiannon Elf. Thank you for lurking with love. Let's see. Knowledge and trickery. Ooh, okay. Do appreciate it. Thank you for hanging out today. Let's see here. What other dichotomies can we start working with here? I'm trying to think of something like I'm trying to pull examples from ancient mythology of the kind of things that they worshipped or had deities that they believed had control over, the important aspects of their day-to-day life, that they needed deities to watch over and to govern. Thinking the sea, obviously important if it's a very sea travel based culture. I don't know what the opposite of that would be. Um, Storm or tempest, of course. I don't know what the opposite of that would be either. Um, sea and sky. Yeah, those could potentially be opposites. I'm not sure that you can really point at one of those and say, oh, that's the good one and that's the bad one. When it comes to sea and sky, they're both kind of good things. We enjoy having them both. Something with hedonism. Oh, friends. Uh, uh, but abundance and gluttony. Abundance? Abundance. Do an abundance. Uh, so wealth and charity, maybe? It's okay, I can never type. Let's see here. Yeah, yeah. I'm trying to come up with more ideas, but I guess we can start here and work forward if anything else pops up. So if we start with life and death, let's see. What are we going to build out from here in terms of who our deity is, our deity of life and death? Well, one of my favorite cheats is always going to fantasynamegenerator.com and just pulling up random names until I find one I like. Uh, by the way, if you are yourself a GM, always avail yourself of these kind of tools because they will make your life so much easier. So let's see here. What's a good name? Fantasy Name Generator, by the way, just has some great, like, in other languages, yes. Had just great suggestions of gods and their domains. So, let's see here. What's a name that I like? I like this one. So we'll go with Dotis. Dotis is our deity of life and death, or at least that's one of their names. They probably have two different names, one for each aspect. And the other one, Fuesis. So our deity of life and death is known as Dotis or Fuesis, depending on which aspect you are attempting to invoke within them. And how should we describe them? So Dotis appears as, let's say that Dotis is the life aspect of this particular deity. Dotis appears as, I think the stereotype when it comes to creating life deities is usually to go with kind of a very motherly image. I don't know if we want to do that necessarily. Go with something more, a bit more off the wall. Go a bit more conceptual with it. Actually, I kind of like the idea of this not necessarily being humanoid. A dandelion? Ooh, I like the idea of dandelions being sacred to Dotis. Limbs made of leaves. Yeah, I was almost thinking like plant. Like Dotis is represented as a great tree or something. All right. Appears as a great tree. With, we'll say 13 branches, because 13 is one of those mystical numbers. It's always great to work into your religions when you're creating them. A great tree with 13 branches. Covered in verdant, no, not verdant leaves. Covered in shimmering platinum leaves. Because we've got to upscale it. The dandelion is one of their symbols, being known for its fecundity. No, not fecundity, fertility. Death and transport put together. Are we talking like death and horses? The god of death and horses? Maybe the god of death is a horse. And create some kind of like Slipnir with 7 legs. Death should be a vulture? I don't know. I mean, that's not bad. If it's a vulture, then we are also cementing or getting a clearer idea of the kind of culture that this pantheon belongs to, because vultures exist in very specific environments. So if we're saying that this is going to be more of a like desert or mesa based culture where there are going to be vultures out around scavenging things, and therefore the image of the vulture is tied with the idea of death, then that's an option. Death is the boatman on the river Styx. Yes. There's a good example, Malkuth. So, presenting death as the a conveyance from this life to the afterlife. I think I understand what you're getting at. Yes. So, we could have something where if we're building like a sea-based culture, we could have the god of death be this sort of skeletal boat. Sort of the black freighter is itself a god that ferries souls off to the afterworld. Um, could also do. What sort of conveyance do we think our god of death would use to ferry souls from this world? A gnarled carriage. Ooh. Okay. So, let's see. Whoops. So maybe our death deity, drawing from the idea that it is somehow crafted or one in the same with this tree of life that we have created, is a funeral carriage that's covered with tarnished black leaves and has bent branches as its wheels, and this idea that it's been crafted out of our tree of life, that the two are one in the same in a way, in a way that life and death are one and the same. Nice. I like that. So let's start talking about another one of these. Let's see, we could do War and Order, we could do Nature and Ruin. I kind of like skipping ahead to Nature and Ruin. And name generator, go! Ooh, that's a pretty name. Axonine. And do Munas. So this is our dual deity of nature and ruin, or nature and destruction. So if we have Axon, our nature deity, how are we going to present them? Possibly in some sort of animal-like form, tying it into nature, maybe some kind of great bird or great fish. Deity of nature could be a big fish. A serpent of some kind, perhaps? Maybe a big turtle. I like turtles. A dolphin? A dolphin deity? Yeah, I think I'm going to go with turtle, just because I like turtles. So we got Exxon. Ooh, I like that. Or some sort of chimera. Ooh, we could do that as well. Appears as a... So some kind of creature with maybe a tortoise shell, but other animal parts. Let's see. Just name an animal for me, chat. Give me an animal. We've already got turtle, something non-turtly. Kangaroo, awesome. Appears as a kangaroo with a tortoise shell and a dolphin's tail. Boom! We just created a nature god. And goat horns. There we go. Look at this beautiful child that we have created. So that is our nature deity. A kangaroo with a tortoise shell, a dolphin's tail, and goat horns. It's like Pugnut describing a parrot. Oh man. Parrot with tentacles. Haunting. So that's our nature deity, Axon, or Axone. And then we also have Munas, who is going to be our deity of ruin and decay and destruction. Add poison sacks. You know what? Just because parrot with squid-like tentacles. Venom sacs. And one more thing. What's one more thing that we could stick on this creature? And pincers, of course. So there we go. There is our dual nature nature ruin deity. Oh goodness. They are worshipped and feared by goblins across the realm. What do you mean weird, Malkuth Soldier? This is beautiful, this thing we have created. It's absolutely majestic. Ah, I want them. I want statues that I can just have like one here and one here. That would be amazing. Oh man. Well, we are getting to the end of the hour. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. You've made some truly delightful things today. I do want to say before it gets too late, and as I start wrapping up here, thank you so much everyone for joining me in chat. It's been a lot of fun. Again, my name is Matthew. You can find me on Twitter at Matthew A. Siebert. You can follow me there for various things. I'm also the Dungeon Master of the Land Above podcast, which you can look up on podbean.com/TLA podcast. Or is it, no, podbean.com/the land above podcast. I don't even know my own URL. Go to nerdsmith.org and you can find the podcast there. Oh, hey, Frosty. Good to see you. You can also find me on Thursday nights at 7 p.m. No, 6 p.m. My brain, you guys. Thursday nights at 6 p.m. on this channel doing no-brainer trivia. If you enjoy bar trivia, come hang out, have some fun, and you can affect the game and add a little bit of chaos to it. I have to thank our sponsors and our network partners, Die Hard Dice. You can go to dieharddice.com to find the finest polyhedrals in the multiverse. They make incredible, beautiful, custom-made, proprietary designed metal dice. They're gorgeous. I have actually a set right here that I just got. This is their Stormforged collection. They are absolutely gorgeous, and they're clipping a little bit with my green screen. They're wonderful. I've been using them with my new Warforged Cleric. So go to dieharddice.com and check out their amazing selection and roll with the best. You can also go to worldanvil.com, which we mentioned earlier. You can check out the World of Vale and the various deities associated therewith. You can also sign up and become a member at worldanvil.com completely free to get access to a host of fantastic tools for building your own homebrew world, be it for a tabletop RPG campaign or novel or what have you, as well as managing and running your gaming campaigns through World Anvil as well. And you can also, just for a little bit of extra money, become a paid member and get access to a whole host of additional benefits as well. It's a wonderful service, and I urge you to go check them out, worldanvil.com, and light up the forge. So, as we wrap up here, I'm going to encourage everyone to go to twitch.tv/plothunters, who are going to be streaming a very special Wildmount one-shot today in association with Roll20.net. They will actually be giving away a copy of An Explorer's Guide to Wildmount through Roll20 during their stream, so definitely go check it out. Should be a lot of fun. Again, twitch.tv/plothunters. Immediately after this at 5 p.m. Pacific time. And of course, come back and hang out with us some more at our various Nerdsmith programs. Monday evening, you can join us as Angela does our Reader's Corner. She reads a selection from a new book. She just finished The Book of Dragons, so now is an excellent time to hop in and listen along as she reads through some novel or short story. I don't know that she's really decided what she's going to read yet, but it should be wonderful. The Book of Dragons was a lot of fun. And then Tuesday, of course, we have our Shenanigans stream. It is our Spelljammer campaign, which features Logan and Tessa and Heather and Mike and Kyle and Angela. our Nerdsmith directors. It is a ton of fun, and you can, of course, affect the chaos through things like the Wheel of Causality or donating to introduce an NPC. It's one of the best nights of the week. You gotta come hang out and join us. Wednesday, then we have the Power Hour with Angela. She talks about various things going on in the Nerdsmith network. And Thursday, as I mentioned, no brainer. Friday, we have Fireside Chad at noon, where Chad, who is a licensed therapist, though not your licensed therapist, still dispenses some useful advice on living in quarantine and living through the stressful times that we are dealing with right now. So come and check that out and hang out with him. And then 7 p.m. on Friday evenings, we have Nerdsmith Sings Its Heart Out, as some of our Nerdsmith creators do a little karaoke at a little Twitch Sings for your amusement. And you can come and request songs, and it's just a lot of fun. So I do my best, Tessa, with those NPC introductions. Wait till you see what I have coming next. I haven't even fully decided it, but it's going to be wonderful if you enjoyed Courgette. So, I think that is going to pretty much wrap it up now as we are getting close to the 5 o'clock hour. Thank you everyone for hanging out with me today. Thank you for helping in creating our wonderful, strange deities. I'm sure they will be a lot of fun to play with in the future. But until next week, take care of yourselves. Goodbye, everybody.